All right, guys. Welcome back to Merchant Services Slayers Group. Again, my name is Carson Cook. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. We're very excited to have you as a part of our group. Love doing these videos, guys, talking on very real-life, effective tactics, techniques, and procedures that are going to help you excel your career within merchant services, gain better residuals, bigger commissions, being able to work with teams, work with managers, start offices, so on and so forth. Very excited to have everybody here. And I'm going to talk about a topic that I love to actually speak about, guys. I love to train on this topic. I love to give real life examples for this, especially dealing with our agents at Go Free Pay, our guys at Centrix, some of the offices that we work with as well. Very, very excited to talk about this topic. And it's first off to talk about how do we persuade people? How do we actually deal with persuasion and building up a sense of urgency? Two very important concepts when we're actually dealing with sales. Now, these are two concepts that are seen every single day. These are not things that you just see within sales or just kind of go through a sales training, but these are things that you use daily with your friends, your family, your relationships, and pretty much a lot of key points to communication that you can put into effect. And you actually have the ability to become a more highly effective communicator if you have that ability to influence, if you have that ability to persuade, and you have that ability to cause a sense of urgency or to get someone to move or to act based off of the verbal, kinesthetic, and auditory communication you give off, right? And that's the whole point. As professional communicators, right, or professional sales professionals or sales staff, that's the key. Those that can communicate extremely well are those that actually spark influence. They spark action. And that's exactly kind of the key aspect of what we're talking about today is how do we persuade merchants, right? How do we get them to move forward? How do we turn a 5-call close into a 2-call close or a 1-call close? How do we take that aspect of a highly performing sales individual and get it out to everybody? Well, the first part about this that I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to talk about 3 different points, is actually a lot of really good content from an experimental psychologist that I love to read on. His name's Zach Tremala. He actually talks a lot at Stanford University. He's got a lot of books out. But he talks about this same idea of influencing and persuading. And the key, most important aspect within communication that has to do with urgency, persuading, and influencing is engagement. Okay, so today's video is going to be all about how do we very quickly, or how do we get merchant engagement fast? Okay, how do we get merchants to engage with us quickly? We do a show for our class. We used to do it live. I think some of you guys on here in the group were actually in this, was the Residual Warehouse, which was kind of a weekly thing where we talked on merchant services, sales in general. We moved that privately, guys. We moved that privately into our own company just because we had a lot of company people on there. And we talk about that a lot. And last week when we did our Residual Warehouse, we spoke about issues that merchants were having, issues that agents were having, getting merchants to engage, right? Getting them to act, right? And that shows one thing is that they've been through that process before. Just like we all are on here, is that you're in a highly competitive industry, you're in a highly competitive environment. With that being said, you can rely on that. So you know that merchants will not be as engaged as they used to be. They're not going to be as efficient or quickly in making decisions as they used to be because they've been through the process before, or they've been through the ringer, or they may have had a poor experience, or I don't know, something might have happened. The industry is shifting. They've all had that same pitch. And a lot of us on this group love to pitch new merchants that have never had processing before for that very reason, is that they're pretty much open. They're like, wow, yeah, oh, that's great. They're agreeing, they agree upon everything, right? And merchant services, believe it or not, it's not really a big deal, to be honest with you, for merchants. I mean, they take cards and there you go, right? But when they get into it and they realize that they're in leases that are poorly done, we do great leasing, but in leases that are poorly done, or this or that, or bad contracts, or bad customer service, or so on and so forth, they run into a situation, right? So with that being said, how do we get merchants to engage, right? That's the first key component that Zach talks about, is that to get someone to be influenced or to build up a sense of urgency or to push them forward, okay, the key aspect of the key ingredient is right off the bat is engagement. So how do we get merchants to be engaged? How can we get merchants to be engaged fast? We're going to talk about 3 different ways that we do this. Number 1 is tone and excitement, okay? And that's extremely important. If you're the person that's very monotone, very slow, and you're not very excited, or this is new for you, so you're a little bit nervous, that's okay because you're going through a sales process that you're learning, right? But the idea is that, emotions and kinesthetic, auditory, and visual stimuli all respond on tone and excitement. When someone's very excited, most people pay attention to that extremely quickly, okay? And that's where you get that engagement from that other individual, right? And this is seen within comedy, it's seen within basic communication, it's seen with tonal change. And this is right along the same psychological aspect of it's not the content that you say, it's actually how you deliver that content and how you say it, which is kind of most important. So having a solid tone and excitement within merchant services can be very difficult at times. And the reason why is because, believe it or not, guys, credit card processing is kind of boring. I mean, it's not that exciting. It's not really like, going to the theme park or shooting or whatever you might happen to, have that's exciting for you or whatever, right? Merchant services is kind of boring. So how do we do that? How do we do that? Well, first off, you need to find a product that you can get behind. Maybe one that your family used, like cash discount. We're very excited about cash discount because I have a long history of selling traditional, and being able to save someone even 25 to 100 bucks a month for me when I was in the field years and years ago was exciting. I get to help them save money, and I feel like I'm doing a good job. But when you get to walk in there and give it away for free, okay, it should say like, this is what I used to do, but this is why I'm excited and I have the tone that I have now is because of what we get to do today, what you could have done a long time ago to save this amount of money. And we actually turn that into an emotional buy by taking exactly how much they do save, putting it towards something that they would do with that money. Make it positive, right? If it's send their kids to school, if it's buy a boat, buy a nice car, if it's put money back into the business to gain 200 to 300% more of a return, and then they take that money and buy something better, like a new house. And you say, well, how would that make you feel? And they know now that they would feel this way. And if they feel this way, great. And then if we could do that for you, do we have an opportunity to earn your business, right? Boom. So we turn something that's very boring into something that's extremely emotional, right? And that is exciting. So you need to have more tone, higher tone, and talk about more excitement. You're actually, when you're selling merchant services and you're selling those savings in the POS station, it's a really good conversation to have even with the top tier star merchant that's very professional on what you would actually do when you have our service. What position would that put you in? What would you do with that? That way you're taking something that can be very extremely boring, that maybe even if your system helps them become more efficient, and you're selling traditional processing, and that more efficiency will actually make them X amount more money. What would they do with that money? Would they expand? Well, why would they want to expand? They'd want to expand and make more money so the owners could enjoy the lifestyle that they love. And at that point, that's when you say, well, what is that lifestyle? How can I add to that lifestyle? I'm turning something that's very boring into something where you're now a provider of a solution, a provider of something amazing. That should increase your tone. That should increase your excitement as an agent. Okay, so to increase engagement fast with merchants, turn something boring into something exciting, right? And get excited before you walk in there. Get excited about everything when you walk in there. Number two, when you're dealing with merchants, if you're a true salesman or a solution-based salesman, you need to really look at the situation as this is a joint venture. So you need to use what we call inclusive language. This is not a negotiation. There's no such thing as a negotiation. This is you and the merchant working on a solution for them and for you at the same time. So inclusive language means like, well, John, why don't we take a look at this? Why don't we take a look at this? Hey, you know what? I think these numbers are going to be great for this business, and it's going to be great for us. So as a partnership, I think that all of us are going to be happy with this solution. Now you're including yourself, okay? Instead of you pitting yourself against the merchant, what you're doing is you're putting your arm around the merchant and you're looking forward to the future. Okay, you're saying, okay, great. Let's look at this cost graph. Let's look at the savings analysis. Let's look at this POS equipment. Let's look at this equipment solution. Let's look at this online solution. Let's look at the solution together. And I'm going to tell you this, John. I'm going to act as if I'm a partner in your business, and we're going to make a sound, solid decision because I wouldn't want anything in my business that's going to hurt me. So I think this is going to be a great thing. So use inclusive language. That gets engagement through the roof. Okay, people tend to engage with you a lot more. They feel like they're included within the communication, the situation. Then finally, number three, this is the one that's obviously the most important. Getting engagement all sparks with qualifying, right? And how to qualify is to number three, ask questions. Asking questions is the most powerful tool to gain engagement and to spark interest with anyone. And this is proven at various different levels of how the human brain actually develops. And it's an extremely key important factor of how great teachers actually influence children and how they actually learn key concepts growing up, whether it's morals, all throughout school, is that you get them to wonder by asking them questions. You get various high levels of engagement with children, all sorts of different kinds of types of children, different brain types and different, so on and so forth. That technique that teachers use gets higher engagement than traditional forms of communication. Okay, and with that being said, that means that all of us actually respond very well to questions. And that's extremely important in the qualifying stage. Now, Grant Cardone, Jordan Belford, we all talk about this when we speak of the old school sales. We talk about qualifying, which essentially is gathering information, okay, to use to close the deal later. And that's pretty given. You gather the information you need to help close the deal later. You also build rapport in the stage to close the deal later. But also questions can be used as a very highly effective tool, not only in psychology, for example, in hypnosis, but also in psychology to tell if someone has a mental illness or not. Like the ink blot test has nothing to do with the ink blot test. It has to do with the questions and the reactions to the questions that they give and the responses that they give. Questions are extremely powerful. So when it comes to the sale, even asking a merchant a question like, hey, do you have a bathroom? And they're gonna look at you and say, of course we have a bathroom. Okay, do you mind if I use the restroom? Now, what agent says that? Well, I used to use that if I was in an awkward conversation or if a merchant just wasn't really paying attention. I would throw them what we call a Milton Erickson misdirect, right? And they use this in hypnosis a lot, where it's an off-the-wall question. It's a joke, it's comedy, it's something that sparks interest. It takes their brainwaves of where they're tranced into something that's completely normal, and it pops it into, yeah, I've got a bathroom that's right over there. So now that I use the restroom and I come back, we're completely refreshed, and believe it or not, the merchant now is actually more engaged. So it's not just about, hey, guys, ask questions, ask qualifying questions, ask this. Use questions, figure out how you can use questions to your ability to see, hey, is my merchant engaged, or are my merchants engaged if you're dealing with a board of directors? And that's a huge key thing right there, is to make sure that everybody involved in the decision-making process is fully aware and engaged within the system. Even if you have a great sales pitch, and we talk a lot about this with our training, it's not gonna matter if you're pitching to a fence post or a goat. I mean, if I'm pitching to this remote here, it's great pitch, super effective communication, highly motivated, extremely effective communication, word choice, should spark a sense of urgency, emotion, and persuasion. But if I'm talking to a remote, it won't work. Okay, if I'm a great singer, but I'm singing in the shower and I don't have an audience, nothing's gonna happen. I'm not gonna be signed to a multi-million-dollar record deal. So asking questions is important. Getting merchants to engage is super important. They're your audience. They're the decision maker. They're the ones that are going to sign off on the paperwork for your commission, for your company, for whatever it is that you do. So remember those 3 top things from Zach that are super important. To increase your customers' engagement, you do number 1, you need to have a higher tone and a lot of excitement with whatever you pitch. I don't care if you pitch soft water pellets. That is extremely boring, but they're the best soft water pellets that God's given to earth. It's amazing. Let me show you how this works. You have to have excitement, you have to have tonality, and you have to really believe in your product. Number 2 is you have to use inclusive language. You're not here pitching something. You're here providing a solution to a customer that is to their problem, right? The qualifying, you find the problem, you provide the solution, but your arm is around that customer and you're working with it together. You're with the board of directors to find a solution, and you're the one that offers that solution, okay? So that's inclusive. Use inclusive language. And then number 3, please make sure that you learn to not only just ask questions, but use them as a tool. Ask them efficiently, ask them directly, and ask them with intention. Okay, and if you want more information, guys, on how to ask questions specifically for an intention, especially with merchant services, drop a link, or drop a message to me on Merchant Services Slayers. Put a comment in the box below, whatever. And if you need a little bit of help on how to specifically ask questions the right way, which is one of the best tools that you can use in communication and sales out there, is learning how to ask questions, then let me know. So thanks for tuning in, guys. If you want more content like this, like I said, we've been super busy in the office, especially around Christmas. Drop a link, like the video, subscribe, click the bell so you get all the notifications, all that kind of good stuff, guys, so that we can keep these videos going. But other than that, like I said, if you have any other questions on stuff, hit me up on Facebook. Thanks a lot for tuning in Merchant Services Slayers, guys. Rock on and always be closing, all right? And other than that, I will see all you guys out there on the sales board, guys. Rock and roll.